Well, I got involved when I was in high school in the late 1950s. I was interested in custom cars. They didn't call them lowriders then. That's a term that came along later. Well, the first time I saw the Alan Duke's car, Alan Duke was the owner of the original Bloody Mary, but the first time I saw the car, it was not the Bloody Mary, and that it was painted blue. And I met Alan at a gas station down in Wilmington, where he worked. We were driving down the street, and he motioned for us to stop, and we did, and I met Alan that day. So Alan's 64 was painted. It was in a purples and white with lace and metal flake and Murano pearl. And that was the first paint job on the Alan's 64 Chevy. But sometime in the fall of 1968, Alan was rear-ended in that car, and it was badly wrecked. In fact, it looked like it was totaled, but he did eventually decide to rebuild the car, and he did. And in the early months of 1969, he had Richard Madrigal repaint the car, and it was painted in the red and silver, which became known as the Bloody Mary. Initially, I thought I would maybe redo my 67, but when I looked at everything and thought about the fact that I'd already had that car, I decided I wanted to do Alan's car, which I thought was maybe a little more representative even of the era and of the early lowriders. And so I did end up deciding that I wanted to acquire a 64 and work with that. Actually, Alan knew someone in South Carolina who knew the pinstriper East Coast Artie Schilling, and Artie had the car, and so I didn't know him at the time, but I communicated with him, and eventually I bought the car, and it was shipped out here, arriving on Labor Day weekend of 2011. And at first I had the intention all along of making it into the Bloody Mary recreation, but I didn't move right into that. I got rims for it, Astro Supremes, and I had the hydraulics installed at Starlight Rod and Custom in Torrance. And maybe a year later, I had the interior done. And it was done as the original Bloody Mary interior. And then I drove the car like that for a couple of years. It was a good-looking car, even just with those minor modifications. In the summer of 2014, I decided it was time that we got serious with the project, and so I took it to Starlight, and they got to work in earnest on it. Starting up front, they had a tube grill, which was a popular accessory at the time. You could buy them, and a number of different companies made them. It's just 6 plain tubes that replaced the original grill work between the headlights. And but acquiring an original piece was difficult. At least in a condition that it was usable. The originals were not of the greatest quality, and so eventually I just decided to have Glory Grills remake it in stainless steel, and so that's what you see there. It's a recreation of the grill. Another notable modification was the twin sunken antennas, or Frenched antennas, on the side, right behind the driver's door. That was another popular modification at the time and a part of the original Bloody Mary. It's simply two probably exhaust pipes which have been welded in, and then the antenna mounted down in the pipe, sunken in. In the back, removed the trim on the back, and the door handles were also removed, as on the original Bloody Mary. Alan had made that modification when the car became the Bloody Mary. The paint was done by a painter, a local painter, who did a lot of really good paint jobs, but never got a lot of mention for it, and his name was Richard Madrigal. And he worked on the car. Of course, first he had to repair the damage that was done when it was rear-ended, and he did that. But then he started work on the car, which was painted on a pearl white base with candy red over it for the primary red color, and then the side panels and the top were done in a silver flake with a black spider web effect sprayed over that. And of course the whole thing was covered in many coats of clear lacquer and sanded and rubbed smooth. This car was painted by Starlight Rod and Custom in Torrance. Jack Fields did the painting. The hydraulics on the original car was installed. The front was installed by some guys that Alan met from Compton, who took the car and put the hydraulics in the front. But before long, Alan decided that he wanted to put them in the rear as well, and he bought some cylinders, hydraulic cylinders, and another pump, and installed them in the rear himself. So he had two pumps, one for the front and one for the back, all run off of the one 12-volt battery. And that was a little unusual at the time. Most people at the time, the early days of the hydraulics, just used one pump using the car's battery that also, of course, supplied power to the engine. It was basically just an early setup, with Alan's being distinctive because he did have two pumps, one for the front and one for the back. Of course, nowadays it's a different thing. People are looking for different abilities in the car, and so they have install multiple batteries and pumps, and the cars can hop off the ground and do the tricks that we're familiar with that modern lowriders do. But for this car, it was entirely sufficient for me to just have to be able to raise it front and back and lower it. So Starlight installed two pumps and two batteries, one battery for each pump, in addition to the normal battery up front. So the car has two pumps and two batteries. It raises and lowers, and that's just about it.